Here are the top stories for today, March 5, 2021. Hope in more vials. President Rodrigo Duterte calls on the public to get vaccinated in a bid to move closer towards economic recovery as AstraZeneca vaccines are now in the country. More provinces in the country roll out their vaccination drive for frontliners. Government officials led the inoculation of frontliners at President Rodrigo Duterte's hometown, Davao City. A faster increase in prices of products and services. The country's inflation rises to 4.7% in February. And this Women's Month, we celebrate the achievements of Filipino women making great strides in the international scene. Good day, I'm Marita Muaje. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Get vaccinated. President Rodrigo Duterte made this call to the public as he reassured that the COVID-19 vaccines are safe and will play a key role in reopening the Philippine economy. The president made a call as more vials of hope, this time from AstraZeneca, arrived in the country last night. William Theo leads our coverage tonight.
The KLM commercial flight carrying the AstraZeneca vaccines from Belgium landed at the Ninoy Aquino International Airport Terminal 3 at past 7 p.m. President Rodrigo Duterte, senior government officials, and members of the diplomatic corps personally welcomed the arrival of the jabs. The president was elated that the Philippines was able to receive AstraZeneca vaccines through the COVAX facility. He said this would further boost the ongoing national vaccination program of the government. Duterte thanked all donor countries, mostly from Europe, for their contribution and investments that made the consignment of safe and effective vaccines to Manila possible.
Let me thank you to our key partners in the international community represented by their ambassadors tonight. Their cooperation in public health is very much needed. Positive engagement is very much welcome. I also assure the Filipino people that your government will continue working to ensure the immediate distribution of the available vaccines to our communities.
During the turnover rites at the Villamor Air Base in Pasay City, Duterte said COVID-19 jabs should be administered to Filipinos the soonest time possible.
I'd like to appeal to all our kababayans, please get vaccinated against COVID-19 and be the government partner in preventing further spread of the disease. I encourage you to get vaccinated as soon as possible time. These vaccines are safe and they are the key to reopening our society.
The Philippines is expected to receive around 44 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine through the Vaccines Global Access or COVAX facility. The 487,200 vials of AstraZeneca's vaccine were developed in South Korea and donated by Germany, the European Union, Norway, France, Australia, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, Sweden, Denmark, Belgium, Austria, and Greece.
As I have said before, these vaccines should be treated as a global public good. The need for international solidarity and cooperation cannot be made clearer than this pandemic because everyone is safe. No one is safe globally until everybody is safe.
WHO representative to the Philippines, Dr. Rabindra Abeyasinghe, said This first batch of supply is a testament to the strength of collaboration, cooperation, and compassion.
The consignment received today will be followed by up to 4.5 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine scheduled to arrive before the end of May in batches. In addition to other vaccines stated to be delivered to the Philippines through the COVAX. Vaccines delivered through COVAX will protect up to 20% of the population in the Philippines. Standing together in solidarity has indeed made us stronger. Thank you to all who have been part of the fight against COVID-19. We honor the government of the Philippines for the strong leadership provided under His Excellency President Rodrigo Duterte throughout the response, and the dedicated team at the Department of Health.
Among those present during the turnover are Italian Ambassador Giorgio Guglielmino, British Ambassador Daniel Prus, Norway Ambassador Jorn Jansen, Spanish Ambassador Jorge Sanchez, the Netherlands Ambassador Saskia Delang, German Ambassador Anke Rai von Stuel, Indian Ambassador Shambhu Kumaran, South Korean Ambassador Kim In-chul, French Ambassador Michelle Bocos, and Australian Ambassador Stephen Robinson. The vaccine supply from COVAX is expected to cover at least 20% of the country's population, with medical frontliners, the elderly, and those suffering from comorbidities as priorities. The vaccines were transported to Metropack in Marikina for storage, with distribution expected to start immediately after repackaging. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization said the AstraZeneca vaccine is effective even in areas with cases of the South African variant of SARS-CoV-2. Abhay Singh said the WHO is looking very carefully at the reports that AstraZeneca shots offer as little as 10% protection against the B.1.351 variant, which was first detected in South Africa. He said the study was conducted on a very limited scale with a sample of fewer than 2,000 people. He said there is no evidence yet of a large-scale presence at the South African variant in the Philippines. For her part, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergeres said the Philippines would carry on with its vaccine rollout using the AstraZeneca vaccines.
Because according to WHO and our experts, this is the only way for us to eventually beat these variants together with the minimum public health standards. No matter what the publications will say, bumaba ng ganitong efficacy, hanggang wala tayong certainty, we will continue to use the vaccines.
For the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo.
More provinces in the country rolled out their vaccination program for medical frontliners today. In Davao City, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III administered the CoronaVac vaccine to Southern Philippines Medical Center or SPMC OIC Chief Dr. Ricardo Audan. Audan and 3 other hospital personnel were inoculated during the ceremony for the vaccination rollout. Employees of SPMC who registered for the coronavirus vaccine have already reached over 4,000. The national government has allotted 33,600 doses of Sinovac for the healthcare workers in the Davao region. In Baguio City, 7 healthcare workers and staff of the Baguio General Hospital received their first COVID vaccine this morning. These are Hospital Chief Dr. Ricardo Runes, Staff Chief Dr. Reyes Wanding, Infectious Disease Specialist Dr. Thea Pamela Kahulao, Chief Nurse Joselito Datud, Chief of the Legal Department Attorney Patrick Henry Villanueva, Chief Finance Officer Edward Pudlao, Ambulance Driver Fernando Tong-an, who contacted COVID at the hospital, and Cleaner Cyrene Romeo. Some 1,871 hospital workers have also registered for the vaccination. Dr. Ricardo Runes says the 7,800 doses of vaccines allocated for the Cordillera region will be distributed to all hospitals. Benguet will start its vaccination drive on Saturday, March 6. In Cagayan de Oro City, healthcare workers and staff of Northern Mindanao Medical Center also got their first dose of CoronaVac today. Uniform and non-uniform personnel of the Army's 4th Infantry Division headquarters in Cagayan de Oro City are also among those who were inoculated. In Albay, 2 healthcare workers at the Bicol Regional Teaching and Training Hospital were inoculated today. These are Dr. Edberto General, Department Head of Internal Medicine, and Mark Vincent Bandulin, a health worker. Bandulin compared the vaccine to love life as he received the first dose of CoronaVac today. Following the rollout of COVID-19 vaccination for frontliners in Cebu, other parts of the Visayas also received their vaccine allocation earlier today. Around 6,270 doses of Sinovac's CoronaVac jobs arrived at the Bacolod Silay Airport in Silay City, Negros Occidental this morning. Ahead of the official rollout, 6 medical frontliners in the city were inoculated with the jobs at the Bacolod City Government Center. Mayor Evelio Leonardia, Vice Mayor Elcid Familiaran, and other city officials witnessed the ceremony. The jobs will be administered to over 3,000 health workers of 2 COVID-19 referral hospitals in Bacolod City. Iloilo City has also received its allocation of COVID-19 vaccines. 18 boxes containing around 6,000 Sinovac jobs arrived at the Iloilo International Airport. The vaccines were taken to the Health Department's cold room warehouse in Mandurriao District. This will benefit frontliners from 4 hospitals in Iloilo City. Eastern Visayas is also one step closer to its vaccination rollout. The first batch of COVID-19 vaccines in the region arrived at the Daniel Zay Romualdez International Airport in Tacloban City earlier today. The around 7,200 doses of CoronaVac jobs are allotted for medical workers in the region. The national government says it will stick to its COVID-19 national vaccination plan after some ranking government officials who are not frontline medical workers reportedly received the Sinovac-made CoronaVac job. Under the prioritization list of the government, frontline healthcare workers are supposedly first in line to be administered with the vaccine brand of their choice. President Rodrigo Duterte earlier ordered only 3 officials, vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr., testing czar Vince Dizon, and MMDA chairperson Benhur Abalos to get inoculated to boost confidence in the vaccine. However, some government officials, including Interior Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya and MMDA Chief of Staff Michael Salalima, had already received the CoronaVac shot. Other officials who received the vaccine are Pasay City Vice Mayor Noel Boyet del Rosario and Manila Vice Mayor Hani Lacuna Pangan, who is also a doctor. Food and Drug Administration Director General Eric Domingo was also allowed to receive the CoronaVac job. In a palace press briefing, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said Malaya and Salalima, who were both vaccinated at the Pasay City General Hospital on Tuesday, were prompted by hospital officials to also receive the CoronaVac vaccine.
Now, the 2 naman in good faith thought that they were doing the nation a service by having themselves vaccinated kasi nga mataas pa yung tinatawag nating distrust sa bakuna. Hindi talaga niya alam na hindi na-approve yung gusto namin na mga taong gobyerno ang ipagpapaturok para nga ma-increase po ang vaccine confidence. No? Kasi nga po yung decision naman ng NITAC na wag nang magpapunahan ang iba pang mga tao beyond Secretary Galvez, Secretary Vince Dizon, and Chairman Abalos, no, was not really disseminated properly.
Meanwhile, Roque allayed fears over the safety and efficacy of the AstraZeneca vaccine, saying no less than the World Health Organization has given it clearance for emergency use. Roque assured that frontline healthcare workers will still be the first group to receive the vaccines.
I said the only thing I can be sure of is that uunahin ng medical frontliners, but the NITAC would have to come up with that protocol. No? But I suppose they will follow the same protocol.
The national vaccination drive of the government is moving at full throttle in time for the proposed face-to-face pilot implementation. President Rodrigo Duterte made this assurance during the simultaneous inauguration of school buildings at the General Gregorio del Pilar Integrated School and Virginia Ramirez Cruz High School in Barangay Santa Ana in Bulacan, Bulacan.
I assure you that the government is exerting all efforts to go full throttle in this COVID-19 vaccination program to ensure the safety of students before the resumption of the face-to-face learning. We are hopeful that these newly built classrooms will provide a more conducive learning environment even as we cope with the new normal.
Meanwhile, Duterte also led the inauguration of the new school buildings of the Lawang Bato National High School and Kanumay East National High School in simultaneous ceremony in Lawang Bato, Valenzuela City. In his speech, Duterte said quality education is one of his administration's top priorities. He also reiterated his promise to reopen the economy once there are enough doses of COVID-19 vaccines for every Filipino.
Making quality education to all Filipinos is one of my administration's top priorities in the development agenda. Well, as a matter of fact, in the budget yearly, the highest ang pera mapunta, ang number one is education. If I see most of the citizens can avail of the vaccine in any of the health centers, hospitals, at wala nang that is the standard, then I will reopen everything sa ating ekonomiya. For now, bigil ako sa lalo na mga bata.
The city governments of Mandaluyong, Valenzuela, Pasig, and Antipolo have partnered to integrate the use of their contact tracing applications. They virtually signed a data sharing agreement for the Valenzuela contact tracing, Pasig Pass, Antipolo Bantay COVID-19, and Manda Track contact tracing applications through the use of quick response codes. In a virtual ceremony, Mayors Rex Gatchalian of Valenzuela, Vico Soto of Pasig, and Andrea Inares of Antipolo forged a network consortium agreement with Carmelita Abalos of Mandaluyong to streamline interconnected digitized contact tracing solutions within their jurisdictions. The confidentiality of data and all sensitive information will be strictly observed under the agreement as various business establishments, including malls and department stores in the cities of Valenzuela, Pasig, Antipolo, and Mandaluyong have already started implementing a no QR code, no entry policy. Aside from medical workers, police officers are also among frontliners in the battle against COVID-19. Following the rollout of the government's COVID-19 vaccination program, more cops now want to get inoculated. PNP Deputy Chief for Administration, Lieutenant General Guillermo Eleazar says 78% of police officers are now willing to get vaccinated. The PNP has been relentless in its information dissemination drive to convince cops to get an extra layer of protection against COVID-19 through vaccination. The police force currently has 551 active cases with 31 deaths due to COVID-19. Aside from getting vaccinated, cops should also maintain their physical fitness. PNP Chief General Debold Sinas made this remark during the launch of the PNP's Chubby Anonymous project in Camp Crame yesterday, which coincided with the observance of World Obesity Day. He said cops should be physically fit to better serve the public, especially amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Sinas said following a strict diet and exercise made him lost 55 pounds in the last 6 months. Still to come, more hope in small doses. China will donate an additional 400,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines to the Philippines. And the country's inflation rate picks up at 4.7% in February due to faster increase in prices of basic goods. More on this when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. President Rodrigo Duterte has ordered the reduction of real property taxes on some independent power producers to deter possible increases in power rates and rotating power outages. Under Executive Order Number 117, real property taxes and penalties will be reduced and condoned. It covers all liabilities for real property tax, including any special levies accruing to the Special Education Fund for 2019 on property, machinery, and equipment actually and directly used by independent power producers for the production of electricity under a build, operate, transfer scheme and similar contracts. The order also covers similar contracts under power purchase agreements, energy conversion agreements, or other contractual agreements with GOCCs for all years up to 2019. President Rodrigo Duterte has announced that China would donate an additional 400,000 doses of Sinovac-made CoronaVac vaccine to the Philippines. China earlier donated an initial 600,000 doses of CoronaVac which arrived in the country on Sunday. On Monday, vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr. said 1 million more doses of COVID-19 vaccines developed by China's Sinovac will arrive this March under a 700 million peso purchase deal. CoronaVac is a third COVID-19 vaccine brand after Pfizer, BioNTech, and AstraZeneca, approved by the Food and Drug Administration for emergency use. To date, at least 9,000 Filipinos have received CoronaVac in 32 vaccination sites in Metro Manila. Duterte, meanwhile, reiterated that he would not force anyone, especially frontline medical workers, to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Local government units in the provinces continue to relax travel restrictions and other protocols while under modified general community quarantine. Chris Crismundo reports.
Negros Oriental Governor Roel Degamo has signed an executive order easing travel restrictions and other health and documentary requirements for those coming to the province, even as it remains under modified general community quarantine. COVID-19 testing is not mandatory for a traveler unless it is required by the destination LGU, and the test shall only be limited to RT-PCR. The EO has also lifted quarantine for travelers unless they exhibit symptoms upon arrival at the LGU of their destination. A travel authority and health certificate are no longer required as well. For those who cannot obtain an RT-PCR test before departure, they can be swabbed here. However, they will be placed at a holding place while awaiting the test result. Bulacan has also eased travel restrictions which were earlier implemented amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Governor Daniel Fernando issued an order which lifted the submission of COVID-19 test results and travel authority for those entering the province. Fernando said he fully supports the move of the national government for the simplification of requirements that will encourage domestic travel and help the economy recover. On the other hand, 3 out of 48 LGUs in Pangasinan still require RT-PCR tests before entry of people from outside the province. The Pangasinan Provincial Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Office said the LGUs are Asingan, Bani, and San Nicolas towns. It added travelers must report to the Barangay Health Emergency Response Teams within 12 hours upon arrival, while they will no longer be required to undergo quarantine unless they show symptoms upon arrival at the destination. Meanwhile, in Dagupan City, a QR code and valid ID are still required for travelers from outside of Pangasinan. The rest of the province does not require an RT-PCR test unless the LGU would issue a different resolution, but the minimum public standard is still strictly being implemented. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Chris Crismundo.
The city government of Lapu-Lapu in Cebu will now require permits for groups to conduct mass gatherings. Mayor Junard Chan issued this statement amid a rise in the number of COVID-19 in this tourist island city. With this policy, the City Hall or the Lapu-Lapu City Police Office will send personnel to watch over the activity and impose health protocols. The mayor said all gatherings must comply with the 50% maximum capacity of the venue. Drinking outside the home is still strictly prohibited. City Hall workers are now tapped to issue citation tickets to residents who will get caught violating minimum health protocols. Meanwhile, Cepalay City, the top tourist destination in Negros Occidental, has allowed accommodation establishments such as hotels, resorts, and inns to operate at 100% capacity. This as Mayor Maria Gina Lizares extended the modified general community quarantine in the city until March 31. For now, only tourists from Bacolod City and Negros Occidental are accepted for leisure travel in the southern Negros City, known for its beautiful beaches and breathtaking dive sites. Last November 6, Cepalay lifted its moratorium on tourism-related travel and reopened its doors to tourists under strict health and safety protocols. In our business news, inflation at the national level accelerated further to 4.7% in February 2021 from 4.2% in January 2021. The Philippine Statistics Authority pointed out the uptick in the inflation of food and non-alcoholic beverages at 6.7% during the month from 6.1% in January 2021. This is the fastest inflation rate since January 2019 when it was recorded at 4.4%. Inflation for food picked up further to 7.0% this February 2021 from 6.6% in the previous month. In February 2020, inflation for food was observed at 2.1%. Up next, no holds barred in fighting insurgency. The AFP submits to the CHR a report on the communist movement's use of anti-personnel mines. And this Women's Month, these Filipinas are shining bright in the global stage. We tell you later why. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, Takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
President Rodrigo Duterte will make sure that the proposed amendments to Republic Act 9165 or the Comprehensive Dangerous Drugs Act of 2002 are constitutionally compliant. Malacanang gave the assurance after human rights advocates raised worry over a House bill which presumes guilt of drug suspects until proven innocent. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said Duterte would not sign into law any proposed measure that could infringe the country's laws. He said the executive branch would also await the final version of the proposed bill. The House of Representatives on Tuesday approved on third and final reading House Bill 7814, which aims to strengthen drug prevention and control in the country. The bill states that anyone spotted where illegal drug activities happen is presumed to be involved in the operation unless proven otherwise. In a statement, Amnesty International said the measure showed a dangerous disregard for human rights guaranteed under the law. Malacanang condemned the stabbing of a human rights lawyer assisting petitions related to the anti-terrorism law. Reports show that lawyer Angelo Carlo A.K. Guillen, who serves as legal counsel for various public interest and human rights cases, was stabbed by masked men in Iloilo City on Wednesday night. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque described the stabbing as an attack on the rule of law. Roque urged law enforcement authorities, including the National Bureau of Investigation, to run after the perpetrators of the assault on Guillen. Roque also expressed support for the cooperation of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines to identify, arrest, and charge supposed perpetrators of the crimes against lawyers. In a separate statement, the National Union of People's Lawyers condemned the attack against Guillen, who serves as their Assistant Vice President in the Visayas. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice may tackle the case on the attack on Guillen depending on his statements. Secretary Menardo Guevara said if Guillen believes the attack was related to his advocacies, he will refer the matter to the Administrative Order 35 Task Force. The task force is the government's interagency committee on extrajudicial killings, enforced disappearances, torture, and other grave violations on the right to life, liberty, and security of persons. Guillen serves as counsel in various public interest and human rights cases, such as one of the 37 petitions questioning the constitutionality of the Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020. He also represents activists and human rights defenders facing trumped-up charges in court. The National Commission on Indigenous Peoples, or NCIP, denounced the use of the term lumad when referring to indigenous cultural communities and different indigenous peoples groups. ICC and IP groups in Mindanao requested not to call them lumad. Lumad, a Cebuano term that means native, was first adopted by the Lumad Mindanao People's Federation in 1986. However, IPs do not recognize the LPMF as the representative of the ICCs and IPs of Mindanao. The NCIP further stated that Datu Lito Omos, the first Secretary General of the LMPF, claimed that term Lumad was chosen to control the identification of the LPs under the banners of the CPP, NPA, NDF. It said using Lumad to refer to ICCs and IPs in Mindanao is like a refusal to recognize their genuine identity and rights. The NCIP encouraged all government offices to refrain from using the term Lumad when referring to IPs. The armed forces of the Philippines tagged the communist movement behind a total of 141 incidents of anti-personnel mine or landmine use since 2010. AFP Human Rights Office Chief Colonel Joel Alejandro Naknak said landmine use by the CPP-NPA-NDF has led to the death of 32 soldiers and 5 civilians and the wounding of a total of 224 persons. The AFP listed 68 landmine-related incidents in 2020, the highest per year so far. Naknak said the CPP-NPA-NDF's use, stockpiling, transporting, and production of landmines is a war crime under Republic Act 9851. He added that they have submitted a list of these incidents to the Commission on Human Rights, the United Nations, and other agencies. The AFP HRO continues to monitor human rights and international humanitarian law violations by non-state armed groups such as the CPP-NPA-NDF. And we end the newscast with great achievements of Filipino women as the country joins the observance of Women's Month. Fans can now listen to KZ Tandingan's song for a Disney film, and 2 siblings are gaining recognition for their environmental protection advocacy. Jenny Scave has tonight's Pinay Pride stories.
From the Philippines to the international scene, Filipino women are truly outstanding. For local fans of Disney movies, you might hear a familiar voice in one of its latest movies, Raya and the Last Dragon, no other than singer KZ Tandingan. The song Gabay, the first Filipino track to be used in the Disney film, is now available on streaming app Spotify starting today. Disney Philippines studio marketing head Ali Benedicto said Tandingan was chosen to sing the song, which speaks of the importance of believing in your talents and abilities to be able to foster change. The movie, which features the culture of Southeast Asia and its people, will be shown in local cinemas soon. 2 heads are always better than one, especially in saving the environment. This was proven true by sisters Anne and Billy Dumalyang, who are among the winners of the 2021 Changing Your Mind Travel Awards of famous magazine Vanity Fair. The award pays tribute to people who continue to make a difference amid the ongoing coronavirus pandemic. Inspired by the works of their father, Ben, the siblings have been a part of the Masungi Geo Reserve Foundation for over 20 years, which aims to protect some 2,700 hectares of land from illegal logging and quarrying in Rizal's Baras town. The magazine cited the siblings' role in giving life again to a land ravaged by deforestation and engaging the local community in protecting the environment. For Anne and Billy, this recognition is for all those who support their advocacy of saving our threatened ecosystems for the benefit of the future generation. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Here's another look at today's biggest stories. Hope in more vials. President Rodrigo Duterte calls on the public to get vaccinated in a bid to move closer towards economic recovery as AstraZeneca vaccines are now in the country. More provinces in the country roll out their vaccination drive for frontliners. Government officials led the inoculation of frontliners at President Rodrigo Duterte's hometown, Davao City. A faster increase in prices of products and services. The country's inflation rises to 4.7% in February. And this Women's Month, we celebrate the achievements of Filipino women making great strides in the international scene. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head on to the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also, watch us on television on PTV4 and the IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know from the PNA Newsroom. We tell stories that inspire change. I'm Marita Muaje. Have a good day.